Excellent. Okay. So let's begin our webinar here and have a quick discussion on the week's trades. For those of you that are still in the conference, that were attending the trade room meeting, you saw some of what we're about to talk about here. So what we're going to do is just go through the trades, and especially go through the last trades of today, and kind of see where we're at, and then we'll kind of go backwards to the first ones. If you have questions, there's a little chat dialog box up on your little control panel there. Just click on the chat button, and you can ask any question you want. I'll stay as long as you need to stay, or as long as you have questions, and we'll go through these, and hopefully it will be of interest to everyone. So today's trades, we did Ruby Tuesday, which is this guy right here, and we did Price Smart, which is a Latin American version of a Costco. And so the first one, Ruby Tuesday, actually the first one to actually hit was Price Smart, and they announced immediately at close today, and it popped up about 3.5% right here, and then it went down, and then it settled right in here. They actually beat on the top line on sales and missed a little bit on the earnings side. We're still actually in this trade right now, and we expect it to resolve either at break even or a little bit above break even though some of you may have already gotten out of this particular trade. Let me put up my notes that we had on some of these. So we had originally a take profit of 6% on this one, and we had a stop loss of 5%. And as you know, for those of you that are in the trade room, part of one of the things that we do is we enter our trade prior to market close or just at market close, and then we take a close look at the actual release. And the three basic metrics that we're looking at is whether or not they beat expectations on the bottom line, which would be the earnings per share number, and those are posted on your jump report. Whether or not they beat on the top line, which is revenue or sales, and what their forward guidance looks like. I usually call it just the forward look. And so if the forward look is revised, and generally it is, but if it's revised upward, that stock is going to take off. It's going to probably go, and if we were already in a buy position, it's going to go long. So those are the three metrics that we generally always look at. Now the reason why Price Smart was interesting is because they pre-released last month a few of their numbers, I think in anticipation that it wasn't going to be quite as good. The stock was trading down prior to release. Their numbers actually weren't that bad, and so really all they released that would be any surprise to investors was just really the last month, the month of March. So
hi,
Dave
Spots
really
here.
High,
Hopefully you can hear me.
If you can hear me, please somebody indicate in the chat room. We were having some problems with our audio and getting hooked up. So please let me know if you can hear me. So Ruby Tuesday was an interesting one. Excellent. Okay.
They were already
let's
oversold
begin our webinar here.
Our data showed that it was going to be
discussion on
down
the
move,
trades.
which
For those of you that are still in the conference, as a prospective one that were attending the trade room meeting, you saw some of what we're about to talk about here. So what we're going to do is just go through the trades,
another metric,
and especially go through the
CFO quit, which is not a good sign.
Of today.
So this thing tanked immediately about
kind of go backwards
16%.
To the first ones. You have questions, there's a little chat dialog box. We're actually looking at a second potential trade here, even though just click on the chat button and you can ask any question you want. I'll stay as long as you need to stay, or as long as you have questions right now. And we'll go through these, and hopefully it will be an excellent trade for those of you that got in. So today's trades, we did Ruby Tuesday, which is this guy shorted it at around the 520 Price Smart range, which is a Latin American more than made up your nickel here. And so the first one, Ruby Tuesday, actually the first one to actually hit was Price Smart. And then yesterday, and we had two trades. Closed Bed Bath and popped up about 3.5% right here, and then it went down, and then it settled right in here. So this one,
Definitely they beat on both the top and the bottom line, and the third metric of forward guidance looked better than what anyone expected.
We're still actually in this
fact,
trade
all
right
the
now.
analysts said that Bed Bath & Beyond was going to be a dog, and that it was going to, that their metrics were going to be lower than expectations, and that there was going to be a drag on their EPS.
So we had originally,
but in fact, it did the opposite.
6%. That was what our trajectory analysis
this one
showed us.
So we
went in long 5% at market close.
And as you know, for those of you that are in the trade room, part of one of the things that we do is we enter our trade
that were in the
prior
trade
to
room,
market close, or just
whether
at
or not
market
there was a
close.
second trade
And
potential.
then we take a close look
not
at
just because
the
overall
actual release
and the stock,
and the three basic metrics that we're looking at is normally I would say expectations
stocks
on the bottom line,
but
which
because
would
it
be
was
the earnings
retail
per share number.
There was some broad
those are
market
posted
issues
on your
and
jump
what have you.
report.
My
Whether or not they beat on the top line, which is revenue or sales,
today,
and what their forward
up again
guidance
a little bit. So
looks
had you
like.
gone in for
I
a
usually
second
call it
trade
just
right
the
here,
forward
you'd have
look.
done well this morning.
And so if the forward look
right after market open, but then look what
is
happened.
revised, and
It
generally
actually
it is,
went
but
lower
if
than
it's
it closed
revised
yesterday.
upward, that stock is
So
going
that
to take off.
So if
it's
you
gonna
stayed
probably
in,
go,
you got slaughtered on this
and if
one.
we were already in a
So this
buy
is one to
position, it's
basically
gonna
just
go long.
take your
So
nickel.
those are the three metrics that we generally always look
solid
at. Now the reason why
8-9%
Price Smart was interesting is because they pre-released
different than what the market expected.
last
And so
month
we think
a few of their numbers.
I think in anticipation that it wasn't going to be
a really
quite
good
as
trade for everyone,
especially
when
when
we
we
go
go down.
when our
prior
data
to
suggests
release,
it's going to go against the market.
their numbers actually
I love
weren't that bad.
those.
So
really
those
all
they
they
released
the highest
would be any
potential
surprise
confidence.
to
So those of you that are
actual real traders out there, when you get a jump report,
So
and
we don't have really high, super high
expectations,
expectations,
since
since
the market
pretty
shows
close
that
to what
exactly
expectations
the
were.
opposite of what our
This
jump
isn't a
reports
dog
say.
stock. This thing should
If
not.
I were you, I'd
tank
have more
tomorrow,
confidence in our
unless
jump reports than
a
I
broad
would in
market
what
is
the other
tanking.
analysts are saying.
So Ruby Tuesday was
somebody
an
says
interesting
that
one.
Goldman is saying this.
They were already
JP Morgan is
oversold a
saying
bit.
that.
Our
I
data
personally,
showed
I
that
love
it was
that
going
stuff.
to be
If they're
a down move, which in
against
fact it
the direction
was.
that
We had to
we're
take profit
suggesting,
of 8 to 10%.
that gives me even much greater confidence.
As a
generally.
perspective
So
one.
not what
when
the
they
normal,
released, in addition to
professionals
them,
like to hear,
missing
but
on both the
that's
bottom and
kind
the
of one
top
of my
lines,
little
and
metrics
same
that I
source
use
store
to
sales, which is another metric,
trade with.
was down.
So this
their
one
CFO
here,
quit,
APOG,
was
an
interesting.
interesting trade.
So this thing
it was
tanked immediately
it was
about
a loss for us,
16%,
but not a huge loss.
and it kept going down to about 20%.
So we had this as a short move.
We're actually
so
looking
at
somewhere right around in
potential
here.
trade here, even though
It
the
popped up about
really
5.5%, 6%.
has got support right
This was
around
just
the
immediately
market
after
it's at
market.
right now,
They
which is
did
about
beat
4,
on
40,
both the top
50
and the
or
bottom
something
line,
like
and
that.
they had
This was
I
an
guess they had
excellent
some
trade for
record
those of you that
sales.
got in
But as
prior
you can
to
see,
close.
it still dipped.
If
and
you look at
bought,
the
or, I'm
history
sorry,
of this
shorted it,
company,
generally
around
in
the
their
5,
past, when they
20,
actually
22
meet or beat on
range,
expectations, which is
more
something
than
we
made
do
up
take a
your
look
nickel
at.
here.
The stock doesn't
on
necessarily
that one.
pop.
So this was an excellent one.
and
Oftentimes
to be determined.
there's other
factors
and then
involved.
yesterday,
Why
we had 2
will
trades. We had
will
Bed
buy
Bath
into
&
this
Beyond.
one.
So you can see that it went down steadily pre-market or after the market opened today.
So this
ended
one
up just right about
definitely they beat on
so
both
this,
the top and the bottom line,
and
and
the
the third
even.
metric of forward guidance
If you got
better
out
than what anyone expected.
right around here.
In fact,
or,
all the
or
analysts
if you
said that
got
Bed
stopped
Bath
out
& Beyond was going to be a
stock,
dog,
you probably got
and that it
taken
was
out,
going to
after
that their
market
metrics
somewhere
were
in
going to
here
be
or
lower
perhaps
than expectations.
So this was actually
and
our
there was going to
only
be a
real
drag on their EPS.
solid loser.
But in fact, it did the opposite,
And that was what our trajectory analysis
So that was the
showed
we
us.
did actually 6
And so
trades.
we
this
went in
week.
long
at
market close at around 48.80, somewhere in
can
that
see the-
vicinity, and it popped up immediately to 53. Those of you that were in the trade room, we had a discussion about whether or not there was a second trade potential. I suggested not, just because overall the
I don't know. Can you see
stock,
the other
even
window?
though that they beat solidly, and normally I would say
So these are the other 2
most
trades
stocks
to
hopefully
go
you can
in, but
see
because
the
it was
window,
retail,
I can't see it.
you know,
There were some
hopefully
broad
you could
market
see it.
issues and what have you.
So
My
indicate you should be able to
suggestion
see
was not to go in for a
Walgreens,
second
Boot
trade.
Alliance,
And as you can see today,
and
it popped up again a little bit. So had you gone in for a second trade right here, you'd have done
which
well.
we did the day
before.
These are the
just
other
right
2
after
trades.
market
So on
open, but then
Monday
what
was, I believe,
It actually
Walgreens
went
was
lower
a
than it closed
BMO, a
yesterday.
before market
So
open
that
trade
was-
on
so if you
Tuesday.
stayed
which
in,
you
you
would
got
have had to
slaughtered
enter your
on this
position.
one.
So this is one to
on
basically just
Monday.
take your nickel. In other words, get your.
Monday
This was
afternoon
a
at
solid
around market close.
8,
So this is an
9%,
interesting one as well, only because
profit
they
spike,
and definitely different than what the market expected.
only
And so
because
we
they
think this
had
was probably a really good
a solid beat
beat. A really good trade we showed them, especially when we go when our data suggests reason for that against a number of other metrics.
I love those,
as well as those give me the highest potential confidence. So those of you that are actual real traders out there, other factors, you get a jump report, and you're doing your own personal research, and you see that the market shows that it's exactly the opposite of what our jump reports say. If I were you, I'd have more confidence in our jump reports than I would in what the other analysts are saying. So right. When somebody says that Goldman is saying this, was a wimpy, JP Morgan is saying that right in here, I personally did hit our 5%. If they're early against the direction that we're suggesting, so that gives not a huge event in and of itself, but not what the normal. So those of you that like to hear, but multi-day traders, kind of one of my little again, most stock jumpers are not, and it's not something that we advise. Trade with. But had you stayed in, this one here, APOG, was an interesting trade. It was a loss for us, but not a huge loss. So that was kind of an interesting. So we had this as a short move, so we went in. You can see it was right around here. It never did. It popped up about 5.5–6%. Our trajectory analysis. This was just immediately after market. This trade did beat on both the top and the bottom line. This company, which is even record sales, a heavy industrial company, as you can see, it still dipped. If you look at the history of this company, that right after in their past, when they actually meet or beat on expectations, which is something we do take a look at, 7–8%, the stock doesn't necessarily pop. Jump zone value oftentimes is over 9%. There's other factors involved in market, but then the next day will buy into all of that. So you can see that it went down. Even though I believe they beat on both the bottom pre-market or after the market opened today, and ended up just right about where we bought it at. So this, if you stayed in it, you probably broke even. If you got out, obviously what we care about here, or if you got stopped out and you had your 5% stop, you probably got taken out. At least our nickel somewhere here, or perhaps for those. So this was actually our only real just grab your 5% solid loser for the week. Something like this, and let's move on and call it a day. So that was the fourth. We did actually 6 opportunities. There's so many of these that we're doing, and just as a comment, right now we're at the very end of earnings season. So this week was pretty much the last week for this quarter's earnings season, and then next week we start up again. And over the next, 30 days, there are literally hundreds and hundreds that we'll have to choose from, and so we'll be able to cherry pick. So these are the other two trades, ones with the better volatility and the better jump zone. So our performance should improve dramatically. Someone can indicate you should be able to see Walgreens, Boot Alliance. So any questions? That was basically our weekend review. We only had 6 jumps this week, which actually, believe it or not, is a very comfortable amount. These are the other two trades. So on Monday I believe Walgreens was a BMO before market open trade on Tuesday, which means you would have had to have entered your position. So we may normally we try to get Monday afternoon between 5 and 8 jumps. This was an interesting one as well, only because the 6 arena seems very comfortable to work with. Only because they had a solid beat from a trade allocation, even though we showed also them working the aftermarket. We felt that the reason for those of you that are a number of other metrics. As well as the ones that are after market seem to perform better than the ones that are before market opens. The reason for that is we were right. There's more attention. If you shorted this puppy right around 87, other than the huge ones that have tremendous volatility that are pre-market releases, we prefer after-market closes, and about 80% of the jump reports we publish are biased toward aftermarket. But it did hit our 5%. Okay, so that's our weekend review. Hopefully you guys traded this. Not a huge 4 of these in and of itself. Hopefully everyone made money this week. So those of you that are multi-day traders, any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'll stay as long as I need to for those of you that have questions. But had you stayed in, this one went down. And if you want to ask, if you need to ask a question, you need to type it in. So you can't talk, or you can't talk it. You have to actually type it in. That was kind of an interesting one, only because the metrics were good. But as you can see, it was at a high, and it never did. I don't see anything. Followed that pattern. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming. And for those of you that are participating in the trade room, I think there's some tremendous value there because you have an opportunity to actually watch the action live. You can ask questions. I'm happy to share with you what my trading program is and my logic pattern of why I stay out of some and why I go to others. The ones that I particularly favor
for options trades and that sort of thing. So for those of you that have the time and either want to trade full time or you're really into this, I highly recommend that you come in the trade room. It's only available for pros. Any of the other membership plans or non-paid or non-premium membership plans, it's really not for you. But if you really want to look at how to eke more profit out of one of these trades, I highly recommend that you attend
for those of you that are more
conservative,
just grab your 5%.
So, without further ado, then I will say goodbye for the weekend, and hope everyone has a good weekend. And I think we're scheduled for 7 comment. Right now, we're at the very end. Check your upcoming page, pretty much jump report week, and take a look at what we've got coming. Quarter's earnings definitely plan for next week. A couple of those start up again. Huge and volatility attached to 30 days. Even though we really only had one Ruby Tuesday-like thing this week, we'll be able to cherry pick 15%. Some of the better ones with the better ones that are volatility and the better jump zone. 20%. So our performance should improve dramatically. Anyway, again, thanks for coming, and I wish you well, and I'll see you on the next jump. Any questions? That was basically our weekend review. We only had 6 jumps this week, which actually, believe it or not, is a very comfortable amount to work with. We can spend